I'm sure many of you guys on the channel are already aware that I do not do massive weight cuts to get to the 145 pound limit, which I compete at. But that doesn't mean I'm not super interested in what other athletes are doing to take advantage of this weird rule system we have where people drop weight and then they balloon back up. So today I'm going to share some information that I stumbled on, which is going to show you what 3 UFC champions managed to put back on their body post weigh-in. We're talking 24 hours. What weight can they get from when they weigh in to the point where they're competing? And this is information that you want to know so that you can structure your own weight cuts and make sure that you are still being competitive on fight day with the size of your body. So the first thing that I do want to point out is some people take the weight cut so extreme. They go way down and way up. And even though it's unhealthy, it does give them an advantage. But I'm not somebody who's decided to take that approach. I prefer to walk closer to my weigh-in weight so it's not difficult on my body long term. But obviously there are disadvantages. If I get in the ring with somebody who is 20 pounds bigger than me, it's really hard to compete against them. So we're going to look today at 3 fighters in particular. And then I'm going to break down for you, based on these guys, potentially what everybody in most weight classes will be putting on. And we're going to start with the 2 fighters from the recent UFC Flyweight Championship fight, and that was Figueroa and Moreno, I believe. Now, I stumbled on this information just by chance, showing how much weight these guys put on post weigh-in. So let's go first to Moreno. He weighed in at 124 pounds. By the next day, before he competed, he was up to 136.2 pounds. That is a 12.2 pound weight gain, which is 9.8%. Now you might be thinking, oh, it's only 12 pounds, but keep in mind, yes, down at that light weight class, putting on almost 10% of your body weight, increasing it, is actually quite substantial. But from here, let's move on to his opponent. He weighed in at 124 pounds, but he ballooned up to 143.2 pounds. That means he put on 19.2 pounds and he increased his body size by 15.5%. That is wild, and in a moment we'll get into what that actually means for people at other weight classes. Now before we do that, I want to talk about Khabib, because I also found information about him relaying his weight cuts and how much he put on in the Justin Gaethje fight. Khabib said in that fight he weighed in at 155 pounds, and on fight night, he was up to 176 pounds. That is a 21 pound weight gain, which is 13.5% increase. So when we look at these 3 fighters, we have one guy who came in just below 10% weight gain and one guy who was way up at just over 15%. So let's say, for argument's sake, that 10% up to 15% is kind of the buffer that UFC champions or many UFC fighters are putting on after they weigh in. What does that mean for you at your specific weight class? Well, it's actually very simple. If you weigh in at 125 pounds, that simply means that you need to go up 12.5 pounds within 24 hours. If you're somebody who's at 135 pounds, you need to go up 13.5 pounds, and so on and so forth. Now, when we start getting up to the guys who are weighing in around, let's say, 170 pounds, yes, that means by the next day you need to be putting on 17 pounds. And that's only 10%. You have to keep in mind that there are people out there who are probably doing 15% of their body weight. So instead of going up 17 pounds, there might be guys who are going up more like 25 pounds. What we really need to understand from this information is somebody like myself, somebody who weighs in at 145 pounds, and by the next day gets to about 152 pounds, if I'm only putting on 7 pounds, I'm only putting on about 5% of my body weight, which means I am way behind the guys who are doing 15% and fairly far behind the guys who are putting on 10% body weight. Now, does it matter? Does it mean that you cannot win fights? No, absolutely not. You can still win fights, but you have to have a higher skill level than all those guys who are bigger and stronger than you. Now, for me, fortunately, through my career, out of the 45 plus fights I've had, I've only had 2 fights where I felt like, holy smokes, the size difference here was substantial. The size difference here was one of the main factors that cost me a loss. And that is a tough pill to swallow, because I can go into a fight and go, okay, you know what? This guy was just better on this night. His skills were better, and I can respect that. But going in and feeling like, oh, you know what? I just very simply lost this fight because of this odd system where people can sort of cheat their way into a weight class which they really shouldn't be at. And this is just an argument you're always going to hear from me. I do not like weight cuts. I think they are dangerous for the fighters long term. I think it's just an unfair way for guys to basically try and cheat their way to fighting smaller people. But overall, I hope this episode has given you a little bit of knowledge into how much weight you might want to be cutting. Now, of course, you want to do it safely. You want to be healthy. You don't want to damage yourself long term. And I've seen and heard of many people trying to do these massive weight cuts, similar to the ones that we talked about today with these UFC champions. But you have to keep in mind that these guys have done these weight cuts over and over and over, and they have them dialed into perfection. If you go in and you make one mistake, you either cut too much weight or you don't rehydrate properly, it'll probably ultimately cost you the fight. And that is why we don't see a lot of people doing these extreme weight cuts, because you have to have it dialed in and it has to be done to perfection. So be very careful. I'm not telling you guys to go out there and cut loads of weight and then try to put 15% back on. I am just saying this is what the UFC champions are doing. And if you're somebody who is wanting to go into MMA and become a champion, you need to be aware of this. And then maybe you need to actually hire somebody, some sort of diet consultant or coach or somebody like that who's going to help you make that cut safely and explain the whole process to you, because this is just sort of a fast introduction to what is happening out in the MMA world. Overall, guys, I hope you enjoyed the episode. I hope you enjoyed this little bit of knowledge and just starting to understand how much weight these guys are going up and down and how much weight they can put on in 24 hours. It is pretty mind-blowing. So guys, if you enjoyed the episode, if you appreciate the information, please give the video a like. If you haven't already, join the channel, get subscribed. As always, guys, train hard. I'll see you back here soon for another video.